There is a public toilet in Akurana. Have you all seen that? You have seen the public toilet in Akurana, right? The pitch should be 15 meters away from the high flood line. So that's more than 30 feet. So this dialogue uh, is right on top of on the river. And this is built by our elected Pradesh Sabha members. Oh, hold on. So we have a social media outreach work that we are doing, and so we have to understand the language of disasters, right? So we can have a hazard, which means that let's say that you're living here, and there is a big rock on top of a mountain. If it falls, there can be a big disaster, right? So this is the week of March 3rd or 9th or whatever. So what you find oftentimes is that Akurana is one of the worst polluted towns, even more so than Norcholi. We have Norcholi also there, more than Kalambu 7. And where we are measuring air quality is maybe the one place in Akurana where there is some green space in front. I don't think people understand this, right? How bad it is. But we have been doing this for week after week. But the difference between, say, March and April was that we have polluted air coming from India and also Pakistan and China. So those guys, now we have numbers like if it is more than 100, we put a red. But in Delhi, the surrounding areas are higher elevation. Then when you come down here, this is Ambatan, right? So somewhere here, it's at a low elevation, and the river goes like that. So Polgola is more than 10 meters below Akurana, right? So this building, might be about 10 meters or a little more than that. So it's a big difference. So don't believe it if people tell you that Polgola is causing floods in Akurana, right? About 8,000 years ago, Sri Lanka had around the 12th or 13th century BC after Christ, about microscopic particles getting into our body. We can talk about plastics also. Now plastics are getting into our body also in the fish and all of that. I think that they found some plastics even in breast milk. We have to think beyond just taking care of the plastic that is in front of us, right? We should stop using plastics that you're going to throw away quickly as much as possible. So they are saying single-use plastics, but we should try to stop. And then in 2001, there was a peak. We thought it was big. 2004, there was another peak. In 2009, the peak was so big, we had more dengue in Akurana DS than in any other DS in the whole country. And some attention was taken to that. And then after that, 2013, and then we had in 2016-17. I can tell you this, people of our generation and the older generation have done a terrible job. You all have to pay the price. But I am telling you all, I have a lot of experience fighting with everybody here. From the Road Development Authority to the UDA to the DS to the Pradesh Sabha, they don't have it. Right? And I think we have a lot of work to do, right? So just go ahead and get the land and put some temporary buildings and call it a school. Start the school and big fundraising, because all the funds went to from here. But the first graduates from Akurana who went to university came at that time when my mother was asked to go to Azhar and start the A-level classes.
Of environment, climate and technology to enlighten and entertain us with his research. Thank you, sir. The stage is over to
you. So around late 1940s, I think, 46, right? So in 1944 or in the 40s, I think people were trying to start a girls' school in Akurana. And well, I mean, they said, why do the girls need to study? That was the argument, right? Okay. And for the boys, the argument was, okay, maybe you should study, but short period, and you really need religious education, not Western education. So this survey plan, I found this survey plan. It was done in 1944. You can't see it, but we can enhance it. But it is like the survey plan that was done so that they can acquire the land for the school. It was done in 1944 from about 5 different people. Some people donated the land, some people got compensation. So after they almost got the land, and there was a person called Razik Farid, he's an important historical leader. So he was interested in promoting Muslim girls' education. There were various other leaders who were. So he used to come here, he talked to various people, and he managed to get the people together. And they almost got the land, and then people said no need of the school. So they stopped the land acquisition at that point. So, but people in Kurugoda were a little more forward thinking. So they started the Kurugoda Girls' School, and there was no Balika school here. So then, according to the story that I hear, they started. Razik Farid said, just go ahead and get the land and put some temporary buildings and call it a school. And after that, so they acquired the land again. After Kurugoda started, then of course they have pioneered, right? And then what happened is that they were able to acquire less of the land. And then after that, they started the school and did fundraising because all the funds went to Kurugoda. So that's the interesting story here. But what you can also see is that. So my mother came about. You said 46, no? My mother came in 1969, so probably about 20 years afterwards, because the school would have taken some time to start. And after that, for the next 20 years, she was here. Then she was taken to Balika. The principal is talking about all the university entrances from here. But the first graduates from Akurana who went to university came at that time when my mother was asked to go to Azhar and start the A-level classes. And so, there's an interesting history that you should know, because you should know that there are a lot of challenges. Things don't come easy, and you have to understand the history to be able to, face even the environmental challenges. People will not appreciate immediately, so you have to keep fighting for a long time to be able to get further. So anyway, so this is like the dress of the girls who came to the high school. You can't see it properly, but that's my mother. All right, so let's go skip the next slide and go to this one. So like I think it was Isra Fairoz, no? She said the World Environment Day was started in 1972 as part of the UN. We are in far, far greater trouble in this time and in this place, in Sri Lanka, in Kandy, in Akurana. We are in real trouble. So, environmental issue, I think that you talked about it. I think it is, you might even call it like a crisis or an emergency. If we keep going like this, we will not be able to live like this in the next generation. So, I will try to talk a little bit about a few things. Can you keep going? I don't think you can see that from the back. I will pick a few things and talk about. So we can talk about global scale problems. We can talk about regional problems. We can talk about national problems, and we can talk about like within our local area problems. And at all levels, there are important adverse changes taking place, and what we think of is happening at the global level can be affecting us at local levels. So we cannot ignore some of the global level issues as well, right? So let's keep going. I mean, we're going to talk about air, water, land, about flora and fauna, about waste, especially plastics, right? So let's keep going. How many of you have heard of global warming? Can you put your hands up? All right, so at least half or more have heard about global warming. So global warming is happening because um, our Earth has um, has a balance between solar radiation coming in and solar radiation going up. So can you get this slide? Going back to the that slide, I wanted to show that image of the Earth as seen from space. So the Apollo program 17 or whatever was in 1969. So for the first time, humans were able to see Earth from space, and that was shocking because then you begin to understand that there is no other planet on which we can live. Our planet is blue, every other thing is red or yellow or whatever. The reason why is because we have water and we have greenery. We have by quite a lot of for quite a number of reasons we are having a planet where we can live. But you can see that from space. When you are living inside here, you don't understand that, right? So that also was one of the reasons that pushed the World Earth Day or Environment Day and so on, right? So one of the things that you have with the Earth is that the Earth is about 7,000 kilometers wide, and it has something around it. So it has water in the oceans. That is also, you don't get that in Mars or Venus, right? And then you got an atmosphere. So that is for the first 10 kilometers or 15 kilometers, there is air in the atmosphere, right? There is something that is clinging to the earth. It's like a thin, not even 1% of the thickness of the earth. It's one third of 1%. So very thin layer of air is there. And we are living on that, in that thin layer of air. If that thin layer of air goes, we are dead. And most life form is also dead, right? So, what is keeping the balance is keeping the temperature regulated is the balance between heat coming in and heat going out. Now, what is happening now is because we are changing the composition of the atmosphere by burning all our fossil fuels, right? With our cars and industries and everything, we took all the fossil fuels or like coal and oil that has been collected for millions of years, and then we are burning it in 30 or 40 years. And the carbon dioxide, the waste from that is going into the atmosphere. So next, keep going. So what is happening is that that balance is getting lost. So when you take a look at the what is happening at the present moment, you will see that this is the what is called the carbon dioxide concentrations, right? How much of carbon dioxide is there in our atmosphere? So normally it's about 0.04% or 0.0226%. But now what has happened is, so this is like 800 years before, so it goes up and down. So when it goes up and down, there are big consequences, right? So for example, about 8,000 years ago, not Sri Lanka had what is called the Rajarata collapse, right? About 8,000 years ago, Sri Lanka had around the 12th or 13th century BC, after Christ. The whole country could not survive because we are mostly in the what is called the Rajarata, right? And then this area was all hills, so they had a thriving civilization with large reservoirs and feeding smaller reservoirs and agriculture and all of that. And then suddenly they all collapsed, right? So they gave all kinds of reasons. Malaria, they gave the soil fertility was going, and then there was ethnic conflict and all of that. But in reality, that Sri Lanka is not the only place there was a collapse. The Anasazi civilization in the what is in Arizona, United States, Angkor Wat civilization, and so on. The reason is because of a small shift in the atmosphere and in the amount of heat that was coming in and going out. So then what is happening now? So it had come down to this level, and then until about 1960 it went up to about 250 parts per million. So this is the concentration, right? So now where is it? It's in 400 parts per million. So you can't see this line, but it's gone right to the top, right? So people will say 0.04, why bother? But it's for us it's madness because you're changing the balance on Earth, right? So let's go. So so that's the basics of global warming. So let's go to the next one. So what you're having is a situation where the temperature is, so this is showing the temperature, global temperature, and also the global carbon dioxide. So what you're having, the carbon dioxide is in green, and then the temperature is in white. So you find that in the last 40 or 50 years, after we started burning fossil fuels, we are having a rise in temperatures, and that is strongly correlated with the rise in carbon dioxide. So we are playing with our life support system, and the leaders are failing miserably to address this problem, and they will not address it, right? So we have all kinds of meetings and all of that. So I won't say these things, but at the same time I don't want to give you the impression that you can do nothing. I just want to say that this is important, right? And those of us who become educated have a responsibility, as has been said. You know, you can hear it in the oath, you can hear it in the song, right? We have a responsibility because we are more educated and have more knowledge than the others. We have a responsibility to pass it on to the others, right? So if you look at this at the national level, if you look at Candy, the top graph is for Candy, and so Candy also shows the same thing, that until about 1960 it was reasonably going up and down. There was a certain temperature, I think it's about 28 or something like that, right, on average in Candy. And then in the last 40 or 50 years, it has started going up. And each place in Sri Lanka that you look, you get this, right? So why is it important if it just goes up by 1 degree? Now it is going up in Sri Lanka more than in other parts of the world, and let's keep going. And the reason it's going up in Sri Lanka more than other parts of the world is because of some crazy things that are happening in our region. So one thing that is happening is the Arabian Sea is becoming very warm. So other seas like the Atlantic Ocean or the Pacific Ocean is not getting as warm as the Arabian Sea, right? It's going up and down, but it's not getting as warm. Now, if the sea is getting warm, I mean, we are basically a tiny island surrounded by land, right? And not only that, in any case, land is 20% of the earth. Most of it is ocean. So the ocean is getting warm. You know, it's an ocean. If you are even changing the temperature of the ocean, how much of heat has to go in, right? It is, and that is going to affect us. That will affect our temperature. So our rate of global warming or warming is about 4 times that of the the global average, right? So what can it do? I mean, does it matter? So let's take one example. So that on the other side you're seeing on the right hand side you're seeing a map of the Earth's basin, right? So if you took all the water out, that's what it will look like, right? On the margins of these on the Earth's basin, you will get coral reefs, right? And these coral reefs, what's happening now is, keep going. Next one. So this one graph is showing the temperature just to the west of Sri Lanka. So in the Arabian Sea, yeah. So this is in the Arabian Sea. What's happening is that the temperature is going up. So from the average, every year the temperature has been going up. It goes up and down, but you can see lately it has been going up. So in this year, in 1997, it went for a peak. 2016, it went for an even bigger peak. 2020, it went for even more of a peak, right? And the consequence, next, let's go, is our coral reefs. So you know about coral reefs? Right. In the coral reefs, so if you go to the ocean and you look on the edge of the oceans, you know, these organisms called corals keep growing year after year after year, and they are quite bright and brilliant. and they look very nice. In fact, I had the pleasure of going in about 96 or 97 because I had someone working at Nara. I went in a boat to see these things. But then the year after, it just started losing all its color. So it started bleaching. So you don't get much coral reefs that you can enjoy in Sri Lanka. I mean, I've been to Kalpit, I've been to Vikadua, you've been to. So the coral itself started dying. Bleaching means it loses its um, life, right? So this has been going for millions of years, right? And then it has. So in Sri Lanka, that has happened. In Maldives, it's still okay a little bit in some places. So it's coral reef. This thing happening to coral reefs is not simply a matter of the temperature, but also what we are doing on land. Right? We are sometimes breaking the corals. We are sending out polluted waters, and we let big ships dump waste like express pearl and so on. So this is like a small tiny change in temperature is causing this, and that means that we will lose our coastal protection if this keeps going, right? So this is extremely consequential, right? Let's keep going. So I will skip this, but as you all know, in the polar regions also we are losing the amount of ice that we have on the polar regions, right? In Arctic and Antarctic. Let's keep it. And in the Himalayas is also melting. So we don't have as much ice on the Himalayan mountains as we should have. Now, if the polar regions melt, the sea level rises, right? And if the Himalayan ice melts, our temperature changes. So we do predictions every week. We are struggling to predict because what was in the past is not what is in the future, right? So let's keep going. So coming closer to home, I mean, we can talk about national level, all kinds of level. Let's keep going. Yeah, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Yeah, let's keep going. So while that is up, let me try to explain that. We can have no. So we can have a hazard. So let's say that. So we have to understand the language of disasters, right? So we can have a hazard, which means that let's say that you're living here, and there is a big rock on top of a mountain. If it falls, there can be a big disaster, right? However, if the house is far away, it is less exposed. Okay, and if the house is reinforced and all of that, stronger, then it has more resilience. So they say that disaster is hazard times exposure times vulnerability. So this is roughly what we call as vulnerability. So locally we can often work on a vulnerability and exposure. Okay, so for example, you are going on the road. If you are careful to check the traffic on both sides and cross the road, right, you reduce your exposure. Okay, if you are well built, maybe you reduce the vulnerability or whatever. But maybe for mosquitoes, if you use a net, right, you reduce your exposure. But if you have pregnant mothers or little children or whatever, they are more vulnerable, right? So you can manage those things, but maybe you can't do anything about the risk, about the hazard, right? Let's keep going. So it's useful to separate these things out because oftentimes we can do something about the exposure and the vulnerability, even if you can't do something about the hazard, right? So now air quality, I think I'll talk a little bit about it because even when you comes to plastics, we are having a problem from plastics. Now, how do people how? Does she need a mic or? Yeah, speak up. Hmm? Right. How do we dispose it? I know that's the right way to do it. How do we dispose now? If you go around, not you all, but other people, how are they disposing plastics? They are burning, right? Or they are putting it in the river, or they are sending it to the Pradesi Sabha, something like that, and that has a lot of impacts. Uh, so, so, uh, so this is related. Everything is related to everything in some way, right? But let's talk about air quality. Let's go. Let's keep going. So the thing is that air particles of very tiny size, about this one is the size of a hair, so it's about one seventh of the size of your hair particle. If it goes in your lungs, it can create big problems, right? If it is much bigger, it will settle somewhere. If it is much smaller, it will flow through, right? So there may be other problems, but so because of that, we have to worry about a certain type of size of particulates. Yesterday, I took a walk from near our house in Mason Studio to Dunila Road at about 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock or so, and then I was coming back at about 7 o'clock. Everybody's shopping, huge traffic. I came back with a headache. I went to clear my head because it's so polluted. There's so much traffic. Festival shopping, I don't know, but it's crazy, right? I went with a mask. So keep going. Keep going. You'll know about these things. So we have like instruments where you can measure the air quality, right? And one of these is in Akurana. We have had it for about 6 or 7 years. We have about 15 or 20 across the country, right? And then keep going. So every week we estimate the so the weekly air quality in different towns. So this one is Akurana, Digana, Norelia, Kurunagala, and so on, right? And so this is the week of March 3rd or 9th or whatever. So what you find oftentimes is that Akurana is one of the worst polluted towns, even more so than Norcholi. We have Norcholi also there, more than Kalambu 7. And where we are measuring air quality is maybe the one place in Akurana where there is a green space in front, right? So the reasons are because of, I think, plastic and litter burning. The other is because I think that the emissions from the three-wheelers are very high, and when they are going up the mountains, the the emissions are too much. I mean, like you for the three-wheeler emission standards is about 7 or 8 times lower than the car's emission standards. And then on top of that is the fact that it's a valley. You have mountains on this side, Vattegama mountains, then all these Ankumbara, Kurugoda mountains or whatever. So we are in a valley. So what happens is all the dust is settling in the valley. So they talk about this effect for Kandy. It's not as bad as Akurana. So I don't think people understand this, how bad it is. But we have been doing this for week after week. But the difference between say March and April was that we have polluted air coming from India and also Pakistan and China. So those guys, now we have numbers like if it is more than 100, we put a red. But in Delhi and all that, they have 500. You can't live, right? They have 500. So when it's 500 there, we get 173. We start coughing. We are not used to it, but it's not, and nobody should be used to it, right? So then again, the pollution will become worse in November because the wind changes, right? Between late March and early November, the wind is coming from the south, where you have the oceans. It's clean. When it comes from the north, it goes further, right? So again, the link between the local and the regional. Let's keep going. So some people, we did a cross-sectional study about Akurana. What is the air quality in the morning and in the afternoon? So this is the main road, right? And this is Balika here. So what you find is that so for each of them, the data is there, both for carbon dioxide as well as particulate matter. And then what you find is that the carbon dioxide is going up to like 460, 470 in the morning near the bus stands, because the buses are coming and parking there, right? And at the same time, at about 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, the children are exposed because there is a lot of like pollution coming from there, right? And then what you find is that strangely, we didn't expect this. Around here, around further up in the town, where you have buildings on both sides, tall buildings on both sides, there also the particulate pollution is extremely high because the air gets trapped and it doesn't get flushed. So this sort of like studies are useful, and you can keep doing it. You can learn a lot, right? So these are like projects you can do. We can actually, give instruments for these things. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so that's about air quality. So how's my time? I know I'm running out of time. No, it's okay. I'll take another 10 or 15 minutes. Okay, let's. So in that case, I can do this vegetation cover and ground cover. I think that in the various speeches you all talked about preserving nature, right? That's a new concept, actually, even though you talk about it. That in the practical implementation of the government, they don't really care about nature. They don't care to preserve the river. They don't care to preserve green space, and as a result, we have big problems. Well, they will tell you, okay, we should promote transport, we should give residences, but they don't care about nature. That's the reality, right? So let's keep going. So if you take Akurana, we have this Pingao here, and it has like Akurana, Patadumbara, Harispatu, Pujapitiya are among the rivers that come in, and then we can look at the elevation, right? So what you find is that the surrounding areas are higher elevation. Then when you come down here, this is Ambatana. So somewhere here it's at a low elevation, and the river goes like that. So Polgola is uh, more than 10 meters below Akurana, right? So this building, yeah, might be about 10 meters or a little more than that. So it's a big difference. So don't believe it if people tell you that Polgola is causing floods in Akurana, right? It is not. You have to think that unless you believe the water goes up the mountain, it's not the case, right? Okay, let's keep going. But that's the kind of stories that our leaders are talking about. So if you look at the survey departments and vegetation map, you will find the land use will include paddy fields and tea areas and coconut areas and all of that. But what's happening is we are filling all that. Every paddy field that is filled is causing floods. The Mahakumbhara one, where the Azaz grounds is, Kudugala one is getting filled as we go. In Dunila Road, the Raumania Madrasa is on a paddy field, because we don't value the paddy fields as a place which can retain water. And recently, the officer in charge of the Agrarian Services Center took a 100,000 rupee bribe to give a permit. I don't have to. We have to talk about it. We can't ignore these things, right? So the officer comes, he takes the money, and it's a good option for him, right? And goes. He got caught though. The bribery commission has a case, so that's why I can talk about it. But that's the problem: is everybody suffers, a few people benefit. So we need to all the other everybody's have to get together and stop people also. We can't just do our small thing and stop right there, right? Okay, let's go. So nowadays you have satellites, right? So you can look at the where is the green space, where is the green cover. We can look at where is the impermeable surfaces. So that is where you have the concrete, the cement, the tar, right? So when the satellite sees it, we are not. What they are saying is that the red areas is where there are more impermeable surfaces, right? And there is some. So what is happening is that this is in 2015, right? And this is in 2022. What you are finding is that in the whole Pingayo catchment, it is these areas around Akurana that has the most impermeable surfaces. That was not the case historically, right? You saw the earlier map, right? So, so what happens is that if water falls on the surface, uh, if it has greenery and all of that, it will go. The trees will catch some will go into the ground, some will evaporate. But if you put everything as concrete or cement or tar or whatever, and construct drains so that everything flashes to the river in no time, right? We are going to have a flood, right? So what's happening is that over a period of time, in Akurana there is a huge amount of impermeable surfaces. Now it is extending to Pujapiti and Pathadumbara, some areas. And sorry, let's see. So if you look at it in detail in this GN area, right? So this is the road, the main road, and I think that this your school is also in this, right? If not, just on the outside. The story of your school is also the same. As this GN is also the same. So what happens? So we have done this analysis for all the grades, right? Or all the GN in Akurana. So what you're finding is that the impervious area is going up from about in 2003 it was about 12% or 13%. Now it has gone up to 13% in 2016. After that we did the study, it came up to 65%. So basically, if you put a glass here, you're going to have floods. But we cannot make people understand this. Okay, so because we have, it's an emergency, we have to stop construction, or if you are going to construct, manage the water, make it infiltrate, right? Every parking lot you can do it like that. Every road you can prevent the infiltration. So we have an emergency with the water, but this is not only the water that is affected. Our own emotional health is affected. If you have some trees, you have a small patch of tree, it helps you with your emotional health, right? So I don't need to tell you more on that. Yeah. So let's keep going. Yeah. So infiltration. So that's and in fact, landslides is rising in Akurana also. In Akurana, there are similar number of landslides as in Matara. But in Matara, they have about 200 millimeters of rainfall. We only have about 80. Right? Because we are cutting. Everywhere we are cutting. We are not thinking about the impact of the cutting failures, as it is called, right? So we tend to have more landslides in November, I guess, right? But the rainfall pattern is also like that for Akurana. So you get high rainfall in April and May. So we just went through that, and then again in October and November, and the landslides really peaks in November. So we don't think about landslides that much, but 3 years ago, one man died on Dodangol area, right? And then before that year, 2 or 3 people died in Dunul area. So, so we can look at it by different GN and all of that. Okay, let's keep going. Let's go. You all probably already know about the fact that the river is being mismanaged. So much of pollution, people building into the river. Wrong. Are there regulations against this? Are the regulations not being enforced? And why is no one caring about it? The answer for the first question is there is enough regulations, right? But what's happening is that the regulations are not getting enforced, and that's a topic, some social scientists, some management people should look at, right? Let's keep going. There is a public toilet in Akurana. Have you all seen that? You have seen the public toilet in Akurana, right? That was so the regulation about the toilets is what, Nipun? My eyes are not working. My eyes should work. Really? She made this poster. The left lane of the housing units within the land area should be positioned in such a way that a minimum distance between 20 meters, right? Socket pitch should be 15 meters away from the high flood line. So that's more than 30 feet. So this dialogue is right on top of on the river, and this is built by our elected Pradesh Sabha members, and nobody is protesting. So you are give 20 rupees to they put the pit there, and it is illegal, completely illegal. They don't even have the, they didn't even own the land, right? I think they gave permission so that the next man can make another toilet, right? Because if you go this much, the Pradesh Sabha will say, okay, in the same building line, you can make a toilet, right? So this is, I mean, we need to do something about these things, right? Okay, all right, let's keep going. Oh, hold on. So we have a social media outreach work that we are doing, and we will share. Are they here? Okay, so where are they? So bring them up. So we will share some small printed business cards so that you can take the code or whatever, and so we will share it. I think Madam Principal also is willing to share, but we at least got some business cards that we can hand out. Let's keep going. So you can relate that we are having floods in certain years in which there is high rainfall. So we measure the rainfall in Akurana for the last 6-7 years, but data is available for anybody. So it's not only rainfall, temperature, humidity, pressure, wind, and it's you can get it on your phone also, right? So wherever you are, you can access the data so that we can see the flood. So the number of bridges have also gone up. It was a smaller amount before, right? It has gone up to 23, 33, 35. And you can see the satellite images showing increasing urbanization. Without any analysis, you can see that, right? So this is the kind of like weather station that you can access, and then this is the weather instrument we have got. We have got two weather instruments. So you can, we will give you the link for you to look at that, right? Okay, let's do that. So, so I think that I won't take too much time. So we talked about like microscopic particles getting into our body. We can talk about plastics also. Now plastics are getting into our body also in the fish and all of that. I think that they found some plastics even in breast milk in some places, the microplastics, because it's small things are carrying into people, and then what happens is what you're calling a bioaccumulation. So it gets concentrated in the fish and sometimes even in humans. So this is a story about the plastic nodules that are there and how it is getting bioaccumulated and biomagnified, and the fish are dying as well. It's a very serious problem. Right? Let's keep going. Even in Akurana, in the river, when the flood comes and subsides, you'll see plastic all over, right? But nobody cares about it. This is not. This is the problem. Right? Let's keep going. Um, so I think that you all already heard about 5R, and but we have to think beyond just taking care of the plastic that is in front of us, right? We can basically we should stop using plastics that you're going to throw away quickly as much as possible. So they are saying single-use plastics, but we should try to stop. So, and we should go beyond, and we should start thinking about the extraction that leads to the plastics, right? And generally of all solid waste management, the production, because there too waste is generated. The distribution, energy goes, packaging and all that, consumption and disposal. So we can't only focus only on the last bit, right? So the people who are more alert and intelligent need to think about more than what is in front of us, right? That's good. So these are also pictures in various drains in Akurana. They are plugging up the drains. You put all the garbage into something and throw it in a drain, and then that creates other problems like dengue, right? That's good. So the dengue comes because of breeding of a mosquito, which takes 1 to 2 weeks. It is the season of dengue now, and chikungunya. The similar mosquito will carry the thing, right? So that is also affected by global warming, because 20 or 30 years ago there was no dengue here, right? We had malaria, but because the temperature rose, the malaria mosquito finds it less hospitable than the dengue mosquito, which does better at these warmer temperatures. So in malaria we used to have it in December. Dengue we are having it in June, July. So this is the period. So all of you need to be careful. So we can study all that, and we have done a lot of work on that. Right? So people. So this is just dengue data for Akurana, right? So there is a lot of opportunity for you all to work on these things, right? So this is from 2002. the yellow shows up and down, right? And then in 2001 there was a peak. We thought it was big. 2004 there was another peak. In 2009 the peak was so big we had more dengue in Akurana DS than in any other DS in the whole country. And some attention was taken to that. And then after that 2013, and then we had in 2016-17, and then after that recently also, right? So you really want to worry about. Uh, so the temperature drives this. So you have to worry about that, right? Thank you. This was we looked at temperature and the impact of dengue, right? So and you can look at by GN division also, and that some areas the red ones have the highest dengue cases. So that's called Alapugoda, Gurugothan and Akurana, and then surrounding areas, Telugata, Varagasin and all have high cases. I can't remember whether we normalized it by population, but so you have more in the urbanized areas, right? So so you can see that uh, what they set out to do in the first declaration of the World Environmental Day is still needed. Actually, we need it more, and we need much more locally, right? And I think that the issue of generational equity was someone talked about it. I can remember. You know, I can tell you this: people of our generation and the older generation have done a terrible job. You all have to pay the price, right? Because there is no oil for you all to run around. We have messed up the river. We have polluted the air. So sometimes don't listen to the older people, right? Right? You can't be too disciplined about these things. So you have to sometimes break the rules. And so it's also you can ask for do your part, learn, educate others, but you can ask for change. You have to ask for change because just ourselves doing our part is not enough, right? Then we will have to advocate to take action from those in charge, whether they are the responsible officers. They have the power, right? The political leaders, they tell us they will do this, that, and they are not doing it, right? And some citizen leaders also, people who say they are speaking on our behalf. And but the last line is not there, but I think that we have to go beyond this. We have to do marches, protests, legal action, all of that. We have to do it. Otherwise, we won't. It's not enough, right? Right. Keep it. That's it. Just go to the last one. All right. So you were able to. I was able to give you all some information about air pollution, the infectious diseases, how the land use changes. All of these things are coming together and creating compound problems also, right? If you have one thing, you can deal with it. So we have a lot of problems. So we seriously, I'm so glad to see that, the staff, the student platoon, right? Environmental activists, the monitors, the prefects, the sectional heads, principal, everybody is working so hard here, right? Um, and setting the tone is extremely important. But what I am telling you all, I have a lot of experience fighting with everybody here. From the Road Development Authority to the UDA to the DS to the Pradesh Sabha, is they don't have it, right? And I think we have a lot of work to do, right? So that's one thing. The second thing is we have our institute. It's a really advanced institute, even though it is in Akurana. It is quite advanced, right? Because I think that the U.S. government, actually it was done after the UN conference, the second conference in Rio. They wanted to set up an institute where we will study about climate. And then I joined the institute, that was in 92, 97 I joined, no, 2000 I joined. And I said, okay, let's make Sri Lanka a case study. So we worked from Pogol, and so we have done a ton of work. So now this is a global case study. It's not just for Sri Lanka, but it is it is like one of the programs that has sustained for 25 years. So we have a lot of capacity. So with all the problems, there are also opportunities. We have ability to learn things quickly because you have electronics, you have computers, you have smartphones. Now you are having AI. We have sensors. We have microphones, right? So we have opportunity also. It's not all gloom and doom, and we are not keeping up with the challenges. But I think it's doable. I think that we just have to be determined and not pull back too much. I think that if we what we will do is we will reduce the problem into the future. We will not solve the flood problem in Akurana. We will not solve the plastic problem, but at least we can try to make it livable at least for your generation and the next generations, right? For a longer period of time, unless a lot of changes happen. So once again, thank you so much for everybody.
Thank you for sharing your words of wisdom and researchers who make sure carrying it forward and reminding us about the challenges that Balika is coming and